So we just got through the presentation surrounding some inefficiencies that were identified at the jail. Talk to me about those major takeaways and the plan moving forward.
Well, certainly with regard to this report, there's just some things that we can't do. I have no ability to do anything about it. For example, the double magistration. All I can do is reassure the city, and I've continued to do so, that look, we're going to do everything on our part to meet with their needs should that double magistration go away. But certainly we're willing to do some things like expanding our 24/7 fast track where people can be put through. There are going to be some non-starters in that for me. For example, at satellite booking for right now, we will not allow anybody that's there for domestic violence or any crimes against children to be satellite booked through. That we continue to be. We go to this 24/7 fast track. There's just certain crimes that are non-starters for me. Those continue to be some.
Okay. And with regard to this double magistration, it's my understanding that the city was not cooperative with the study. But based off of your conversations, what are their concerns that they've identified to you?
So I know, for example, that Chief McManus' number one priority, and I certainly agree with this, is that he wants his cops in and out as quickly as possible, no unnecessary delay, so they can get back out on the street and continue to respond to calls. Totally on board with that. I don't want my facility to be the reason for that delay either. And so, but there's certain things that I can't control. For example, I know one of the concerns that he's had since I worked for him and sat next to him at these negotiations was the space devoted to booking, or to parking rather, in our Sally Port. I can't increase that parking, but what I can do is change our processes, and I'm certainly willing to do so. For example, should during peak hours that Sally Port area be full and his patrol cars can't park there, what I'm willing to do is maybe send a deputy out to the curbside, grab the prisoner from the car while the officer goes and parks his car. We've got his prisoner secured, waiting for the paperwork to arrive. Those are just changes to process that now that my staffing has improved considerably, I can certainly entertain certain things like that to offset what their concerns are.
Something that has come up in recent months is the medical rejection policy. It's my understanding that some officers have been turned away if an inmate, for example, in one case, that I had covered stated that he drank 3 beers a day and that was treated as detoxing from alcohol.
Well, certainly whatever the person is telling us, it could be different from what they're telling the officers. But with that being said, we're looking for any sort of symptoms associated with alcohol detox that may require us to divert that person to get signed off on by medical at the hospital before being accepted into the jail setting. While I can certainly sympathize, trust me, I've been that first responder cop on the street that gets a prisoner medically rejected, and you're taking the trip to the hospital. I can say that definitively that our processes today are a lot more than what we had to deal with, or a lot better than what we had to deal with 30 years ago when I was a street cop. For example, the Ed Banos, as I mentioned, I sang his praises in there. One of the things that he did was he created a fast track on the other end of things. So should that prisoner get rejected and have to go to the hospital, there's no longer that 8-10 hour sitting and babysitting your prisoner. They're fast tracking them through and getting them back to the jail with the paperwork that we require, but again, trying to get that cop back out on the street as soon as possible. One of the other things that Ed Lanos has pledged to me is they're looking at the ability to even station doctors at the jail so that when we do medically reject somebody, it's not a drive to the medical center, it's just walk them into the next room and get the doctor on site to take a look at them. So we're certainly doing everything we can to accommodate our fellow stakeholders. We've all got the same objectives in mind, safeguard the community, but we also have to do so with regard to fairness and with the health of the inmates in mind.
Is the jail outfitted to treat any of these issues that inmates might be medically rejected?
The jail has 24/7 medical. So certainly we have the ability to treat some things like alcohol detox, fentanyl, detox from fentanyl or other opioids. Obviously, we're not as good at it as a hospital setting would be, but that's why we want a doctor to get eyes on these people. Because some of the things like alcohol detox or detox from certain drugs like what we call benzos, that person looks just like you or me, and you have no outward signs that person is detoxing until they code out and die. And so we want to make sure that we're getting a doctor to get eyes on these people take a look at them and say, yes, they're suitable for jail, and we'll continue to treat the symptoms as they develop. But for now, this person is safe to be put in release.
I'm going to switch gears here. You briefly mentioned the measles. Jail populations are obviously perfect incubators for communicable diseases.
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit about the protocols that you have in place and are working on this team.
So certainly with regard to jails, you hit the nail on the head. We have the ability to not only incubate an illness in very close quarters, but also amplify it to the community. Because on any given day, 100 new bodies are coming in, 100 new bodies are going out into the community. So it just stands to reason that if you've got a virulent disease that is just incubating in that close quarters, and then you're sending 100 people out that have been exposed on a daily basis, you can see where it soon becomes everybody's problem. When I've been seeing the coverage just like everybody else on these measles, possible contaminations. So I hit up Ed Bonos and I said, hey, are we on top of this? Is this something I need to be worried about? They mentioned that they're already working on the medical side of the processes to give me advice on what to do. For now, what we're going to be doing is just looking for any outward signs of measles on anybody. And if we suspect that there's been an exposure, we're obviously going to medically reject that person, but we're also not going to send them to a facility where they may further infect people, expose people rather. So Ed's working on that, what that process is as we speak.
And then switching gears again.
Sure.
Recently you've made an announcement that you would hire individuals that were laid off by the federal government.
Sure.
Talk to me about that initiative. Have you gotten any bites?
So look, that to me is, in my opinion, if you're just flat out terminating people, that the taxpayers have already invested in these people to get them trained up to that point, to get them onboarded to that point, and then to turn and fire that person. Well, you're also disregarding the sizable investment that's already been made in those people by the taxpayer. You've got a person that's obviously willing to work in public service. Right? That right there that's a precious commodity to find. You've also in many cases got somebody that is willing to commute to either Washington D.C. or wherever these offices were. They've uprooted their families. What I'm looking to do is offer those people that already have some of the attributes we're looking for, already have even some of the training that we're looking for, and see if we can't recoup some of that cost to benefit the taxpayers of Bexar County. And yes, to answer your question, we have had people reach out that just saw my social media post and said, look, I'm interested. There's some instability going on in my current work environment. I'm interested in hearing what it is that the sheriff's office has to offer.